What is up, you guys? Welcome to Illumination Lab. My name is Justin, and today I'll show you how I modeled this room within Cinema4d and Redshift. This project will be separated in two videos, one dedicated to modeling and the other to lighting and colors. We're kicking off modeling in this one today. I'll show you the references I use that help me bring this project all together. I'm excited for this one. This is going to be a fun one today, so without further delay, let's get into it. All right, so references today. So we have about 3 different references that we use to help create the scene here, with one being pretty much our primary. Our primary reference here is going to be obviously this this one that looks similar to our render. What I like about this one is it's pretty dynamic, both in the composition and also the colors used. I think with the composition it adds a lot of depth, so you can see that we have the foreground here, which is kind of like the bed, and then we have our computer and all this different stuff on the desks in the background, and then of course we have a lot of different posters and different papers attached to the wall. And then to add another layer of depth, we do have that city outside the window as well too. So what I liked about this as well is it's very saturated with a lot of blue, and then you have the nice little contrast, or even I guess more of a complement of these oranges as well, since they are complementary colors. So I think the orange kind of helps break up the blue quite a bit, just because you also do have a warm color kind of mixed in with a cooler color. But essentially I wanted to try and see if something like this was possible within Redshift, just because it's so detailed and there's a lot going on. And so sometimes with Cinema4d or like any sort of software program, sometimes you're kind of at the mercy of how much VRAM you have, especially if you are using a GPU, a renderer such as Redshift. But that was the goal today. These other references, what I liked about them is it was just another way of kind of showing the same thing. You do have a lot of different shelves, you have a city outside the windows, but you have a lot of different books and cups and different plants as well too, kind of lined up all along the shelves. And so it just kind of creates a very busy look within the scene. So, but for most of these, it uses a lot of different blues and oranges, and so I just thought that was kind of a nice touch to kind of again kind of break up both the warmness and the coolness of the colors. And whenever working off of references, I try to incorporate what I like, but I always try to make sure to change it up a little bit to make sure that this is a completely separate piece and we're not copying it to be exactly identical to our references here. So again, these are the 3 references I use. I'll kind of pop these up throughout the video as well to kind of show you guys as I'm modeling. So yeah, so that's the end of our references today. So let's hop into Cinema4d and let's start modeling. All right, so jumping into Cinema4d, to start the scene, I'm just going to throw in a cube here, and then I'm just going to kind of stretch it out along the scene. Again, primarily we're working off of our main reference here. I'm just kind of establishing the shot here, and then I'll just bring in a Redshift camera and try to get the proper composition that is similar to our reference, where we could kind of show the bed, the desk, and then our window as well too. So now what we're going to do is we're just going to copy and paste those cubes here And then I'm just going to put them on each side here to create our walls initially. And then I'll do the same thing, copy and paste, and then we'll use that cube for our ceiling as well. All right, so for our far wall here, what I'm going to do is just increase the segments here. And then I'm just going to press C to make our wall editable. And then I'm just going to highlight a few of these squares here and just delete those. And then the same thing with the back portion of the wall here. I'm just going to delete those. And then this is going to be the start of our window here. Then I'll bring in this other cube here and then I'll shrink it down. And then this one's going to be used as kind of like our vertical divider that kind of helps separate the window here. So we're just going to place that one in the middle here and then just line it up. And then again, to make things easier, I'm just going to copy and paste here. And then I'm going to add those cubes to each side of the window here. And the reason I do that is to make sure that there isn't any sort of gaps here, that this is essentially kind of building up the window so we don't have anything that just kind of looks off in general. And so to make it a little bit more realistic, we do have to take this step. And so I'll just again copy and paste these and put this against this window here. All right, so with the window done, next up what I'm going to do is bring in another cube here. I'm going to kind of shrink this down, turn on fillet, and then with this one's going to be our table here. So I'll just kind of line it up to the windowsill here and then just adjust it here slightly. And then like a reference, I'm just going to make another table as well. So I'm just going to copy and paste. And then kind of stretch out this the side of the table here. And then I'm just going to kind of fix this one and just delete the previous one, and we'll stick with that one. And then I'll just kind of play with it, so I just line it up properly, just to make sure that it's not going inside of the wall here. Okay, so next up is we got to make the legs. So I'm going to bring in a cylinder here. I'm going to shrink it down, and then I'm just going to line it up to the table here. And then I'll just adjust it slightly just to make sure that it's a good proportion to the actual table here. And again, to make things simple, I'm just going to copy and paste the legs. And then I'm just going to copy and paste those legs again, rotate them, and then I'll use these cylinders for this table over here as well. Cool, so we got our tables outlined so far. So what I'm going to do next is establish some sort of chair. In the reference here, they do have this little stool, so we'll do something similar. So I'll bring in a cylinder as well, and then I'm just going to hit fillet just to kind of round out the edges here, and then I'm just going to adjust it to this table, make sure that the seat is somewhat lower than the table here, so it is a little bit more realistic, and then we'll just place that there. Cool. So next up, we got to kind of work on our walls here. So what I'm going to do is yet again bring in another cube here, and then I'm just going to kind of place it against the wall here, and then I'm going to bring in a bin deformer. I'm going to fit it to the parent here, and then I'm just going to kind of rotate the angle here. But first, in order for this to work, I need to increase my segments. So I'll just go back into the cube, increase the segments to 20 each, and then as I kind of rotate the camera here and copy and paste, what I'm going to do is just bend it slightly so it's kind of falling off of the wall almost. And then actually what I'll do with this one too is I'll bring in a twist deformer. I'm going to fit this to parent as well, and then I'm just going to slightly add a twist to it so it looks like one edge is kind of falling off where the other one is kind of still being attached to the wall here. And so sometimes, especially with posters too, if one side is not sticking to, it kind of drapes over. So with this, I'm just trying to recreate that effect or that look essentially. All right, so next up, what I'm going to do is I'm going to make some sort of table surface. I'm just going to bring in a cube. I'm just going to kind of adjust it to this area over here and just kind of really just shrink it down. And then I'm just going to copy and paste here for the base of this this table. And then I'm just going to kind of adjust it slightly and really just kind of work it to how I like it essentially. And then again, we're just going to copy and paste. And then this is going to be the sides of this little table area over here. And then again, copy and paste to make a divider here. Now to kind of build up the scene, I'm just going to try and add in a whole bunch of different items onto our shelves here. So I'm just going to bring in a cube. And then just kind of stack it on top of each other. And then with these, I'm going to make almost like a mock clothes with this one. So I'm just going to increase the segments and shrink them down here. And then I'm just going to copy and paste a few of these. And then I'm just going to bring in a bend deformer and kind of bend a few of these cubes here so they're kind of not exact, essentially, where they do have some give to them. And so I'm just going to kind of manipulate some of these cubes here to kind of make them look a little bit more almost like folded clothes, essentially. And so especially to kind of make it a little bit more realistic, I'm just going to kind of offset some of these cubes, just because we don't necessarily fold our clothes exactly how they should. So I'm just going to kind of offset one to make it seem a little bit more organic. And then again, since we are making the scene relatively heavy, what I'm going to do is I'm just going to kind of add what I can, but everything's not going to be in super high detail, just because if we do look at a reference, we do have a lot of dark areas. And so what I want to do is make sure that what is highlighted or what is within the lights, I want to make sure that that's in the highest detail possible. And then for a lot of the other items within the scene, I want them to be, you know, more of a lower quality, because with that, you're not really going to be able to see the detail. You're just kind of going to get an outline, so you have a general idea that there's something there. That will kind of manage our VRAM space as well too, as far as rendering goes. And so I think we'll just kind of try that trick out initially here. And next up, I'm just going to turn on our shading here. The reason I do this is just to get a better idea of what our models look like without having any sort of light source. If we do kind of throw in a lot more assets within the scene, it's just going to kind of be mushed together. So I'm just going to throw on this shading effect here, just again, so we can kind of see everything properly. And then I'm just going to bring in a cube, and with this cube, I will turn on fillet as well too. And this one is going to go on top of our clothes here. And then that one's kind of just going to be like almost like a cardboard box that is stacked on top of the clothes. And next up, if you do look at our reference, it does have a kind of an interesting looking circular mechanism here with this orange light around it. And so I'm just going to do something similar to that here. So I'm just going to bring in a cylinder here. And then I'm just going to increase our segments as well. And then I will bring in a tube here and kind of shrink down our tube here to kind of replicate that same sort of ring look here. And then I'll just kind of adjust it to the cylinder here. And then just push it back slightly. Cool, so we got that done there. Next up, what I'm going to do is I'm just going to make a few different posters here. So I'm just going to kind of rotate some of our posters or even just papers against the wall with the bend and twist. There's a lot of really cool looks you can do with them. And so I'm just going to kind of copy and paste that one there. Next up, I'm just going to kind of throw some stuff on the floor here. And so I'm just going to bring in some cubes, kind of line up this cube similar to the little table that we made over there. and then I'll have this other cube as some sort of item that's leaning against the table, and then I'm just going to kind of adjust it to make sure that it's not clipping into our ground and it's kind of sitting on that table leg here properly. And if we look at our reference again, you can see that there's a lot of different books within the scene. To make some low poly books, what I'm going to do is hop into Grayscale Gorilla, go into their material section, and then they do have some hardcover books that we'll bring in and we'll be able to use within our scene here. So I'm just going to take this first one here and then just kind of apply it to the table. And then with this other one here, I'm just going to kind of have it on top and slightly offset. Again, to make it more of a organic feel, we're going to make sure that some of these books are offset and not completely lined up, just because that's a little bit more realistic as far as what you would see in real life. And then again with this last book, I'm just going to kind of line it up on top of these other books as well. And then going back to the reference again, you do see a lot of different cans or even just like drinks in general. And so in Grayscale Gorilla, they do have one of these cans that we'll bring in. And I'll just kind of copy and paste this and kind of spread it out throughout the table here. And then with this one, what I'll do is I'll throw in a squash and stretch. And essentially with this, I'm just going to kind of brush it down as if, you know, someone crushed the can after drinking it. And then I'll just kind of play around with it a little bit just to kind of see what kind of effects I can get with it. And then I'm liking how that looks, and so I'm just going to kind of line it up to the table here to make sure that it is actually sitting on the table, and again not kind of clipping into the table. And then I'm just going to copy and paste this can as well. And then we'll just kind of rotate it a little bit here. Again, just to kind of bring a little bit more personality to the scene, as if the can got knocked over, or you know, this person that lives here really doesn't really doesn't care at all. So we'll just kind of rotate that one as if it fell over here. And then what we'll do is we'll just jump back into Grayscale Gorilla. They have a lot of really cool assets here that looks pretty good, but at the same time is a little bit more low poly as well. And so on top of modeling, we're able to kind of incorporate these to kind of create a look that we want a bit faster than normal here. And then to just kind of bring in another cup looking item, I'm just going to kind of bring in this glass cup here, and then I'm just going to increase its size and move it over. And then I'll just kind of place that on the back side of this table here. Really with this, I'm just going to just kind of build up the scene as much as possible. Of course, we do have our references, but I'm also just trying to kind of think of different things that would be either around a room or within a room in general. Again, I'm just kind of playing around with the scene to see exactly what look we can get. And then with this too, we can copy and paste some of these books here. So I'm going to do that and kind of take these books and put it underneath our shelf here. And then I'm just going to bring in another cube and just kind of put it next to some of our items down here, just to bring a little bit more clutter into that area. And then I'll bring in this pillow as well. And then I'll just kind of set it down here underneath the desk. Again, to kind of add to the clutter, but also make a few different shapes and different materials down here, just to kind of break up the area a little bit, so it's not all a whole bunch of cubes or just square items here. And then next we brought in this planter as well. So I'm going to eventually put a plant over here. So we'll just kind of place this planter here, and it's going to be on a stool. So what I'm going to do is just copy and paste our original stool here, and then place that underneath the planter. And then I'll just kind of adjust it so it's actually sitting on the stool here. And then hopping back into Grayscale Gorilla, they do have this cool looking plastic chair. And then I'm just going to kind of place this against the wall here, and then adjust the size to make sure that it's within scale to our room. And then going back to the reference, if you look at one of our references, there's a lot of different cables kind of running throughout the scene here. And so I'm going to try and replicate that same look with all these different power cords or just kind of cables in general. And so I'm going to bring in a cylinder here. I'm going to shrink it down. And then what I'm going to do is bring in a bin deformer and then just kind of fit that to parent. And then I'm just going to adjust it here so it's off at the very ends. And then I'm just going to add a slight curve to it. So with this one, I'm going to make it look like it's coming out of the ceiling here and shooting all the way down the wall. And then I'm just going to kind of rotate this so it looks right. And then I'll just kind of adjust it to the wall here. And then now this is clipping our poster here. So I'm just going to select our poster and then just adjust it here. And what's cool is since our poster is kind of hanging off of the wall, I can kind of hide this cable behind this poster that is hanging off of the wall. Cool. And then at this very bottom spot, what we can do is we can add in a cube here, one to kind of hide this cable, to kind of hide the end of the cable so we can kind of cheat the look a little bit, and another two to kind of bring a little bit more messiness into the area. And so I'll throw in that cube here just to kind of, just to kind of break some things up. As I jump back into my camera, it is slightly off. So I'm just going to kind of readjust our composition here and then just adjust our perspective here slightly, just so we can kind of line up the camera to our focus essentially. And so cool, so that's looking pretty good as far as our camera goes. And like our reference here, we do have a bed in the foreground here, so I'm just going to bring in a cube and kind of just expand the cube, and I'm just going to use this as a placeholder for now for our bed. And then and looking at the reference, I just kind of want to adjust it to make sure that it's within our shot here, but at the same time doesn't take up a whole bunch of space within our scene. And then for now, what I'll do is bring in a few other cubes to kind of build up this side wall area. Cool, so I kind of have that blocked off for now. I think we will change that in the future, but we'll just kind of keep that as is for now, just to kind of establish a specific area. All right, so next up, I'm going to throw in a few more posters here. So I'm just going to bring in this cube here and then adjust it to the wall. And then I'm just going to jump out of this camera here, and then we'll copy and paste this cable here, and then we'll kind of do the same sort of look on this other side. And then I'll kind of adjust the bend as well, just to again create a different look. What's cool about this is since the segments are a little bit lower, it really has a almost like a crinkled look, and so you do have some jagged edges up at the top here. And I'm just gonna kind of keep that how it is, just because it adds a little bit more character to that cable. And then again, our endpoint is going to be this behind this box area. So next up, I'm going to take a sphere and then just place it over here on the chair. And really with this, we're just kind of building up the scene. There's no reason for any of these. I'm really kind of just hopping along the scene here just to kind of build it up. I really don't have much that is planned. I'm just kind of looking at the scene and kind of just building off of it. And that's what I think would be pretty cool. It's not really in our original references. It's very prominent in our other two references is these shelves. And so what I'm going to do is just bring in a cube here and then just kind of place it against our wall. And then I'll just kind of adjust it and then bring it out here. And then with this, I'll just kind of copy and paste these to kind of create some sort of shelves. And then with this, it's gonna kind of take up a little bit more space in the room, and it will kind of allow us to add in a little bit more clutter onto the walls here. So next, I'm going to jump into the Redshift library here, and I'm just going to bring in a computer monitor here. And then I'll just kind of place it on the table, very similar to our original reference. And then I'll just kind of adjust the scale just to make sure that it does look a little bit more realistic. And then again, similar to our reference, there is a laptop off in the side. So I'll just kind of bring in this laptop as well. Of course, we could model all of these things, but I figured that when it comes to some certain items like this, it's just going to take a lot of time to build up these assets in a proper way. And so some of these assets I will bring in from the Redshift library here, but a good majority of this is going to either be modeled, or I'm going to find something that is find something fun within a Grayscale Gorilla as well too. So, and again, I'm just going to bring in a keyboard here. And then I'll just kind of grab our cans here, and then I'm just gonna move them over to the monitor. Cool. So next up, I'm going to bring in a cube. And I'm just going to add in a taper, and then just kind of taper the top of this cube here. And then just kind of adjust it to our shelves here. And then I'm just going to take one of these books from the table here, and then I'm just going to kind of apply it to this shelf here. And then what I want to do is make an actual row of books here. So what I'm going to do is bring in a Redshift matrix here. I'm going to select linear instead of grid. Then I'll throw in our custom object as our book. And then as I zoom out, you can kind of see our Redshift matrix here. And then I'm just going to change it from Y to X, and then just adjust the count here. And then I'm just going to kind of line it up to the shelf. Now with this, I really need to bring up the Redshift render view to kind of see what our books are looking like. And then you can kind of see that they're all spread out. So what we'll do is we'll adjust that so they are actually kind of pressed up against each other. I'm just going to take our X position here and just kind of lower that down. And then as I lower that down, you can see that the books are kind of pressed against each other here. So that's the look I was going for. And then really with our original model, you could kind of just set that anywhere. And then you could see the scene here. So it's going so far, so we'll keep at it. So next up, what I'm going to do is I'm just going to copy and paste these clothes here. And then I'm just going to bring them over to our other table over here. I'm just kind of going to shrink them down a little bit and then make sure that they are actually on this table. And then just kind of rotate them here slightly. And then to kind of bring in some more clutter here, I'm just going to kind of make a simple shape. It really doesn't matter what it is. I mean, it's it's a cyberpunk esque room, and so you can essentially make whatever you want and get away with it. So I'm just going to kind of make a cool little shape here, and then just kind of place it onto the table. So next up, what I'm going to do is just kind of bring in another cable here. So this one's going to be slightly smaller, and it's going to have a little bit more bendiness to it. So I'm just going to kind of put this right outside of the window here. And then if you remember our original reference, we do have the city outside. And so with having our city outside of the room here, I think it's going to kind of create a cool looking like light effect onto our cable here. And so I'm just going to kind of copy and paste this here and really make two separate cables against the window. And then again, I'm just going to bring in another cable here and then just kind of apply it to the back side of this wall here. And really with this, I'm just trying to make the wires or the cables kind of surround the area so it looks again messy, and then it looks like there's a lot of stuff going on as well too. So creating a variety as far as the shape or the length is gonna kind of help add in a little bit more variety, so it's not as appealing to look at, or you got a lot of different things going on. And so but yeah, we'll continue to work on those cables. However, next I'm just going to jump to this back wall here, and then I'm just going to grab a few of our cubes here and then just kind of adjust them to the wall, just to kind of create a little bit more like posters or just random papers attached to the wall. So I'll just kind of play around with that here and then overlap some of them and then just kind of scatter them around the wall here. And with this too, I'm really just kind of bouncing around the scene, and so we'll actually just hop back into our cables since I am done with this wall for right now. And so with this one, I think it would be cool to kind of wrap it around the outside and bring it out to the right side of our room. And so I'll just kind of mess with this bin deformer here just to make sure that it is wrapping around the wall here or just kind of wrapping around this window. And then I'll just kind of adjust the length. And then I'll just kind of adjust the segments so there's not any sort of rough edges here. Cool. And then with this is a pretty good shape, so we'll just kind of copy and paste this one, and then I'll just kind of rotate this one, and I'm just going to put this on our back wall here. And then I'll just kind of adjust it to the back here. Cool, so that looks good. So hopping over to our shelves here, I'm just going to kind of bring over a sphere here and then just place this next to the cube that we tapered off. And then I'm just going to make sure that it is actually sitting on our shelf here. And then with our Redshift matrix, I can easily just kind of copy and paste and bring that down. So I have a few more books here. Okay, so next up, what I'm going to do is I'm going to try and fill up the wall a little bit more. So I'm just going to hop into Grayscale Gorilla here and kind of look at a few of these assets. And they have a lot of really cool ones. So I'll just kind of select a few here and then we'll just try and incorporate some of these into our scene. And then with this, we'll just kind of see how they look. If we don't like them, we can always just kind of delete them or just adjust them within the scene. But I'm just trying to find a few assets here that kind of go with the room or can kind of make the room look a little bit more busy and kind of make sense at the same time. So All right, so first one, we got this graph here. I think maybe just placing this against the wall, especially behind the monitor, as if, you know, the individual that's living here is working off of something or has like important papers against the wall. So I'm just going to kind of adjust some of these graphs here against the back side of the wall here. And then we'll just kind of make it a little bit closer to the monitor here. Again, almost like these graphs are some sort of reference for this individual. Now I do have a mug, and so I'll just kind of take this mug and rotate it and put this off on this other table here. And then I do have this coffee cup as well. And then we'll just kind of put this coffee cup off to this other side. And then I found this cool looking origami figure, and so we could kind of place this on top of whatever this is over here, and then again just kind of adjust the scale. And then I found this little money coin here, and so I thought it would be something that is a little different and to kind of help break up this area over here as far as the shapes go. And so I'll just kind of line this up against this box here. And then with these two models here, I thought this would be kind of cool to create some sort of light source out of this, almost like a futuristic looking lamp. And so I'll just kind of take these over to the left side of our table here and then adjust the scale and then just kind of line these up. Cool, so that looks good. Next up, I'm just going to jump back into our cables here, and I'm just going to adjust the cable. And then with this one, I'll have this one kind of going off against the left side of the scene here. And then I'll just kind of adjust it so it looks like the cable's coming out of the ceiling and veering off to the left here. And since this is a cable that is a little bit more dense, I'm going to kind of keep those edges to the cable so it's a little bit more jagged as well. All right, so I'm just going to throw in another cube to the wall here to kind of just break up the cube, especially when we start to add in different colors to our walls. I want to make sure that we have a few different textures or just a few different objects on the wall to kind of, again, break it up and add to the clutterness, if that's even a word. I do like the shape of this poster here, so what I'm going to do is just copy and paste this poster and then just kind of increase this bend here so it just bends at a higher degree. And then I'm just going to kind of put this at the bottom here as if, you know, it's a poster that is a little bit longer or a paper that is longer, and then it's kind of stopped by this leg here, and so it kind of creates this curve of the poster. And then to add a little bit more character, we'll kind of add in a few assets here on top of the poster as if, you know, this is something that this person was trying to get to or eventually put up, but, you know, time just kind of passed by and he kind of threw some stuff on top of this mat here. And then with these will be a few different boxes as far as our cubes go. So I'm just going to kind of adjust the size and kind of rotate them just to make the scene look a little bit more organic. So I liked those shelves over on our other side. So what I'm going to do is just copy and paste those and bring it over to the left. Again, to kind of build up the scene a little bit more and allow us to put a few things on our shelves here. And then I'm just going to kind of copy and paste our book over here and bring this book over to this other side. Again, to kind of add some character, I'm just going to kind of lean it up against something. So I'm just going to lean it up against this container here. And then I'll just bring in some sort of ball figure here and just put it next to this book. And then this person definitely drinks a lot of energy drinks, so we're going to copy and paste and put a few more drinks off to this other side as well. And then just to kind of create some variety on this back wall, or to create some sort of depth, I'm going to bring in a few cubes here and just kind of line it up against the wall. Again, I don't know what this is, but this person does, so I guess that's what matters at the end of the day. So and then what I want to do is make some sort of mechanical device. And so I'm just going to bring in a cube here. And then bring in a few different assets as well. And then we'll just real quick replace this keyboard with the keyboard that we got from Grayscale Gorilla. This is somewhat of a flat keyboard without any sort of wires, and so I feel like that seems a little bit more futuristic versus what we had. And then again, I'm just going to adjust the scale so it's kind of fits the scene properly. And then I'm just going to push the monitor back here slightly, and that looks pretty good. So all right, so for our mechanical box here, I have this cool looking dial looking thing. So we'll just apply this to the box here. And then I do have this weird looking part as well too. What I'll do is just kind of put this along the outside of this box here, and then that will kind of take up some space both on the bottom and top of this device. have this as well, this little, almost like a little slider here. So we'll just kind of apply that to the bottom here. Again, I have no idea what this is. I'm just kind of making this up on the fly. So, but that's a part of it. So that's that's what kind of makes this a lot of fun, is you can kind of make up your own stuff, especially with any sort of sci-fi or fantasy. You can kind of make up whatever whatever that you think of, and you know, people will go along with it. So looking at our scene, I really like what we did with that poster at the very bottom on the ground, how it's kind of arching up against the leg. So I want to create that same thing, but something that's on the table, something that is like just hanging off of the table. So I'm just going to apply this cube to our table here. I'm just going to adjust the size and the bendiness of this, and then just kind of adjust it here. And I'm just going to make this a little off center so it seems a little bit more organic. And then to add some character as well, I'm just going to take our lamp device that we have and then just kind of set it on top of that. Again, adding more character by showing that this person, instead of just putting this paper or poster on the table properly, they would rather just put something heavy on top of it so they can just kind of leave it there and then look off of. And then I think what would be cool as well too is in Grayscale Gorilla, they do have this Wi-Fi looking icon here, and so I think just making some sort of box with this Wi-Fi symbol would look pretty cool. So we'll just take a cube and apply our Wi-Fi icon onto the cube here. And then we'll just jump back into Grayscale Gorilla to see if we can find anything else we can kind of apply to this asset here. And then I did find this one. I think this would be cool to kind of put around the edges here. And then we'll just kind of adjust it and line it up. Cool, so we'll just take that, group that together, and then just kind of place that on the wall for now. All right, so I'm just going to throw in another cube here, turn on fillet, and just kind of take up this area here. And then to kind of create a little bit more variety, I'm just going to kind of play around with the twist here. And then what I'm going to do is create some sort of picture frame. So I'm just going to bring in a cube here. I'm just going to increase the segments. Press C to make it editable. And then I'm just going to highlight the surface here. And then we're just going to extrude it so we can push back our highlighted spot here slightly to kind of create a picture frame look. And cool. So that's simple enough. Again, since most of this area is going to not be in direct light, we just have to get the general idea of what it looks like and not really apply too much detail to what it looks like. All right, so next up, I'm going to bring in another cup here and just kind of apply it to our table here. And then what I'll do to kind of create a little bit more variation, I'm just going to take these cubes here and just apply it to the wall. Again, I don't know exactly what this is going to be, but it's going to be something, or it's going to kind of add in a little bit of variety to our scene here. So next up, I'm going to make another picture frame similar to the process we did earlier. I'm just going to increase the segments. Make this editable by pressing C, highlighting our specific area. And then clicking on extrude and pushing these back. And then what I'll do is just kind of shrink down the size here, and then I'll just kind of adjust it to this back wall here. Again, we're just kind of making the scene look a little bit more busy, so we're just kind of throwing things against the wall. We're throwing it against the wall. Get it? All right, so next up, our cable here. We're just going to kind of throw in another cable. This one's going to be one of the smaller cables here, so we're just going to adjust it to the back wall here, and really kind of line it up. And then to kind of help us out a little bit, what I'll just do is copy and paste another cube here to kind of take up the space, so we don't necessarily see where these cables are going, and so we can again kind of cheat the look a little bit more. And then on this right side here, I think it would be pretty cool to kind of create some sort of other mechanism. And so what I'll do is kind of bring in a few different assets, almost like some sort of radio or like soundbar system. So I'll just adjust it to this wall here. And then I have a few of these, and I'll just kind of line them up against this cube here. And again, I think with this one, it'll be more of like a futuristic soundbar or some sort of speaker system. And really with this, I'm just kind of playing around with the assets and just kind of adjusting them to this wall here. And then there's a few different designs, so just very simple, just copy and pasting. Rotating some of these assets here. And then again, just kind of playing around with it to see what looks best. Cool, so that will be good so far, especially since within our camera view we won't see a ton of it. So if it's not going to be in the camera shot, we're not adding a whole bunch of detail or spending a lot of time on it, just because we really don't need to. We need to kind of focus a lot more attention onto what we want the viewer to actually look at. And so we'll just place that there again to let the viewer know that there's something over there, but it won't be in very good detail here. So okay, so for our chair, what we need to do is throw in a few legs. So just real simple, we're just going to throw in a couple cylinders here, we're just going to adjust them. I'm going to make some sort of tube look here. So I'm just going to bring in a bin deformer and make a complete 360 with this tube, and then just kind of adjust it to the legs. And what's nice is since we already did this, we're just going to copy and paste this to our other stool here, and then we'll just kind of adjust the legs as well. Cool, so that's looking good so far. Again, I'll just hop into Grayscale Gorilla just to see what else we can kind of add to our scene here. And then we'll just kind of throw in a few other books as well. And then I'll just kind of adjust how the books look to add in a bit of variation. And then also to kind of increase the size as well. And as I was doing this on the table, I had a actually really cool idea to incorporate some sort of cable that kind of wrapped around our window here. And so what I'm going to do is just adjust this cable so it's kind of wrapping around this pole here, and then it goes from outside of our wall to the inside here. So I'll just kind of adjust the bend deformer here to kind of create the angle that we're looking for. And then we'll kind of rotate it here slightly. And then we'll also increase the length as well. Cool. And actually what would be cool for this is to take our Wi-Fi device here and then adjust it to this wall. So it looks like this is a wired cable going from our like a router or some sort of Wi-Fi device here. And so what I'm going to do is bring in a tube here, and then I'm just going to adjust it to our wire here as if it was some sort of connection here. And then I'll just kind of line this up to our cable like so. And then right now you can see that that cable is going through the other cable, but I think with our plants here, we'll be able to kind of hide that aspect. And so I'll just leave that there as is, and then we can always adjust it later on. But I think that's a really cool touch to kind of add in that cable there to that Wi-Fi router or the Wi-Fi device, whatever we're calling it in the future. But I think that's kind of cool to be able to bring in that cable from outside into the inside here. Our shelves are looking a little light, so I'm just going to throw in a cube here, and we'll just kind of figure out what that's going to be later on in the process. And then I just want to kind of look around the scene here to see what it's looking like. And it's looking pretty good so far. What we can also do is kind of bring in a few more paper looking objects, and we'll just kind of place that onto the table. And then just kind of shrink it down so it's a little bit more in scale. And then I'm just going to copy and paste this one just to kind of overlap this. And then I'll just copy and paste again and just adjust it. Cool. And then I think to just add in something a little bit different or to add in some more variety, I'm going to bring in another cube here. I'm going to turn on fillet, and I'm just going to adjust it to the ground here. And with this one, it's going to be more of a carpet texture. I know in some of our references, it's mainly just a wood floor, or you can't even just see the floor in general. And so adding in a different texture or a different look on top of our ground here would be pretty cool. And then just when you thought that this was enough cables, we're going to add in some more cables. So I'm gonna throw in this larger cable here, and then to be a little bit more ridiculous, I'm just going to kind of make it so it's kind of spreading across the room here, just so it's kind of a messier look. Cool, and that looks pretty good so far. What we need to do now is adjust our bed. So similar to our computers here, we can totally make a bed by modeling it, but I feel like that is going to take quite a bit of time to make it realistic and make it to what we want. So we're just going to hop into the Redshift library here and select this bed here. As it comes in, I don't want this like wood frame that it's attached to, so I'm just going to delete that. And then I'm just going to take the bed, I'm just going to rotate it and adjust the size. And then I'm just going to hop back into our Redshift camera view. I'm just going to adjust it to the scene similar to our reference here. And then really with this, I'm going to delete our cubes here just because we really don't need these cubes. And then I'll use this one cube almost like a backboard to our bed here. And that looks pretty good. So our bed is within our shot, but it doesn't take up a whole bunch of space, nor does it distract the viewer. And so I think that is to scale and within a good shot here. And then with this cable, I'm actually going to kind of adjust it so you have more of a loop down here at the bottom. And then since we can see this shelf area, I'm just going to bring in another Redshift matrix here, and these are going to be our books. And then I'll just throw in a cube on here as well. And then maybe another one for for good measure. And then I'll take those 3 cubes that we applied to the wall. I'll just copy and paste it here to kind of add in some variety. And then I'll throw this planter asset from Grayscale Gorilla onto our shelf here. And then our back wall is looking a little sparse here, so I'm just going to bring in one of our posters and then adjust the bend here. And then kind of line that up against the back wall. Now for our shelves over here, what I'm going to do is kind of create another speaker system over here. And so I'm just going to bring in a few more assets from Grayscale Gorilla and just line up these assets to this cube here. And then I did find this cool looking textured piece here. I think that would add in a little bit more variety to our back wall. Same with this one as well. I can kind of move this one over. Again, I don't necessarily know what this is, but this could this could, you know, kind of add into some of the layers onto the wall. And really with this pattern I just placed here, I think it's a little too much. So I'm just going to go ahead and delete that one. And then I do have this nice little wooden cup asset here that I will put on top of our box here. And then we did bring in another pillow, and I'll just kind of place that pillow against the chair here, again, to kind of add in a little bit more variety. And then what I'll do is I'll throw in a vase over on this far side. And then in this vase, we're going to add in some plants, kind of break up a lot of these squares. Most of our assets here are kind of more square or circle based. So maybe throwing in a few plants or just organic materials in general will kind of bring a little bit more life into the scene. And so we'll just do that there. And then I'll just kind of poke around the scene here and adjust it like so. And make sure that everything is kind of in its proper place. And then with these papers here, I'll just kind of copy and paste these papers onto the far side here. And cool, so this is looking pretty good so far. As I pop into the Redshift camera, we made a busy scene for sure. So a lot of this I kind of made up on the fly. But we did use some of our references here to kind of place a lot of different assets within the scene here. But other than that, that's pretty much it for the modeling process. And then let's hop into our wrap-up section, and we'll kind of talk about this a little bit more and look into what we're working on next. All right, so wrapping up the video here, this one was a little bit longer. What I liked about this one is I felt like I had a lot more freedom to kind of throw in some random assets. Of course, we use our references, but with our references as well, they had a lot more random items kind of spread throughout the scene here. So that is one thing that I liked, is we could kind of build it up and make it our own. And then, like I said before, this scene is heavily inspired by our original reference. But again, we did add in a lot of different assets, and we kind of changed it up a bit. So it does look similar, but it is kind of different, and it is our own. In the next video here, what we're going to do is we're going to add in a few different lights and a few different colors. And so next up, we'll kind of walk through that process. But with this video, mainly with this one, I would just wanted to show the modeling process, just because with modeling and with colors and with lighting, it can be quite a bit in just one video. And so this one was dedicated to just modeling. And then, like I said, in this next video, in part 2, we'll go over all the different lighting and how we applied different colors to the scene here. So let me know what you guys think. But I had a lot of fun with this one. This was one I took a little bit longer on. It took me about 2 days to really finish up the modeling process. I took a little bit longer because I wanted to make sure that what I did to it, I actually liked it, and I didn't feel like I was rushing it. So let me know what you guys think down in the comment section. If you like videos like this, feel free to like it, or let me know what else you guys want to see like this. I wanted to make more videos where I was just kind of modeling most of the time, and then kind of really creating a scene. So hopefully you guys got something from this. And then definitely in the video where we go over our colors and textures, I feel like a lot of you are gonna get a lot of really cool information from that. So just like that, that's the end of the video. You guys have a good rest of your day, and I'll see you on the next one.